Hello.
Hi, Alicia. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. How do I pronounce your name, Alicia?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Nice to meet you. I'm
Yes.
glad to be part of your channel, and I'm looking forward to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you
And I
for
read,
joining.
yeah, my pleasure. And I read your bio about your colt and your most challenging horse you broke in as a trainer.
Yep. Yep. By
And
far.
and I like your kind approach, no force approach. And this is what's missing, I find, in this industry. And as a writer, I always wrote as a kid, uh, starting very early. Back then, it was, when he's a little naughty, just whip him,
Yeah.
make him go,
Yeah.
or give it to so and so. They will straighten your horse out.
Yeah.
And once I had a little luck and I got sponsored by other saddle companies because of my riding career, I noticed that everybody speaks something different. Everybody has a different opinion about saddle fitting. I turned to my friend and says, it's almost like everybody has a belly button. Everybody has an opinion.
Yep.
Who is right? Who is wrong? What am I supposed to believe? All I care is that I stay on the team and my horse is not hindered or in pain from a saddle.
Exactly.
And wouldn't you know, one of the most popular saddle, I was so proud that they sponsored me. And the saddle fitter says, when I said, in this saddle, he really fights my hand and he's leaning heavy into my right leg. And I was so happy to get this saddle. And you know what the answer was? All he got to get used to is, if not, you just whip him through it. He will learn. So in
That's
other words, he had to go through this pain and deform himself to fit in this fit. And I'm not trying to make an excuse, but hey, I was young. I was proud to be sponsored by so and so and be in the
yeah.
club that everybody else has. And needless to say, it was not long before until the coach finally piped up and says, either you really lost your talent or your ability to train your horse right, but something has really changed. And then we went through everything: feed, shoeing, my riding style. The very, very bottom was the saddle. And it was the most obvious
Yeah.
because literally the moment I switched on, I had all these issues.
Yeah.
So to my dislike, I went back to the other sponsor, gone. The horse was fine, right?
Yeah.
So, but sometimes we get a little bit guided wrong from either marketing or social media, false news, whatever you want to call
Hmm.
it, and don't listen to the horse so that you don't do that in terms of, oh yeah, beat him through the
Yeah.
submission. That's cool. So when I heard that you do it, it says, okay, I'm game. Let's talk, Alicia.
Yeah.
and,
And
and
we
see.
literally just went through that experience too. And unfortunately, saddle was kind of one of the last things I thought of. But the second that I realized, hey, maybe this is the problem, like all of our issues, all of the behaviors just gone.
Isn't,
Absolutely gone.
but why is that? What do you think? Why you and me and everybody else out there goes to the saddle last? I mean, for me, I know because I didn't want to. It's my favorite company. I was proud.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest reasons is that nowadays a lot of us are taught that one size fits all when it comes to saddles, and oh, it fits this person's quarter horse that's, big like mine, so there's no reason it shouldn't fit mine, right? We're not doing the proper steps to ensure that they are actually fitting the individual horse itself. We're more concerned, is it fitting me, than if it actually fits my horse.
That's right. That's right. So where are you based?
We are in British Columbia, Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're doing both English and Western, or mainly Western, or what do you do?
Mainly English. I Western's more of just kind of a for fun on the trails type of thing, but English has always been kind of my more of my passion.
Mhm.
So we do ride strictly English at this time. Eventually, I'd like to, get a Western saddle just to have on hand. But I right now we ride in a dressage saddle, and then we have a treeless saddle that we use just for fun trail rides. But
And
English is definitely the priority.
and are you on the coast, in the mountains, north,
More
south, where?
in the mountains, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, lots of trails through the mountains.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so let's dive into it, because what we here at Schleese do, we like to fit from the horse's point of view. With the main difference is that, again, a little story is when you ride all your life and then you coach, you're sponsored, you get horses, you also start teaching. And I talk to my mom and says, Mom, how come I get the most untalented rider? They don't listen. And that was the time when just the majority of the rider were women. And the complaint and the issues, and I says, get off the horse, let me feel it. I don't feel it. It's all in your head. See, you can let your hang down and leg hang down and so on and so forth. It's insane how many, especially male trainers or riders, are insensitive to or don't listen to what the issues are with the female. And the female, full stop, has a birth channel. I don't care which of the 4 different type of pelvis a female has, she has a birth channel. And even, doesn't matter what pronoun I listen to it or what sex change I had, the pelvis and the thigh and your lower back will never change. So whatever chromosome you're born, you have 2 distinct different impacts in the seat. As a young trainer, rider, even though I had sex education in grade 6 to tell that's the boy, that's the girl, never did I put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
Right? So it wasn't that I had untalented rider. I was just an ignorant instructor who did not listen what medical doctors, like this guy here, Dr. James Warson, who wrote a book. He's a medical doctor. Okay, he's a physician. Actually, he's a neurosurgeon who is also a rider, and he wrote this book because he says it's unbelievable how many people never heard that there is a different saddle for different sex, like there's different underwear for different sex. Sure, a girl can walk around in male boxer shorts, not a big deal. Maybe not so comfortable riding, but a guy definitely would never ride in female underwear.
No.
Right? So we instantly know that can't be good. So you got to understand that the majority of the saddle makers are guys. Yes, there are some female saddle makers, but the majority of them who make saddles worldwide are males. And when we make the seat and we form the seat, we sit in the seat, we do it what feels good to me. And then I, as a saddler, proceed. So when you tell me you don't like my saddle, then I said, learn to ride or toughen it up or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't feel what you feel. So anyway, when I read that book and I listened to a trainer, Ashley Monroe, back in 1988, she was riding for the Canadian team, and she says, "You're going to talk to my gynecologist." I says, "No, I don't want to talk to your gynecologist." But she and many of her students had a lot of health issues related by the saddle, and says, "No, it can't be the saddle. Doesn't matter if it was a Schleese saddle, a Pastia, Kiefer, Steuben, and Albion. Doesn't matter." So that guy came actually to my saddlery, that gynecologist, and he brought 2 different pelvises, one male and female plastic pelvis, but life size. Says, show me a saddle, any saddle, and then you tell me which of these 2, let's call them just for shits and giggles, A and B, which of those 2 saddles, which of these 2 pelvises, A or B, would fit properly on any saddles you have in your store. And back then I sold every type of saddle. By far, it was always A. Always A. And A is the male with the high pubic symphysis, long tailbone, hip socket hangs straight down, and we as the guys, we can shove our parts left or right. B, which is now the A rider, in other words, the majority of the riders are ladies, okay? Flat pubic symphysis versus high pubic symphysis. Wow. See the difference?
Yeah.
And then we don't have this little, that's where the underwear line goes through.
Yeah.
We don't have that. So when my student says, "Oh, there's another saddle, it's so expensive, and This is the third saddle I bought, and every time I change, it costs money. I got to deal with this, but my underwear, no matter what I buy, shaves. Get off the saddle, let me feel it. Of course I never felt it, because we don't have it. It goes straight up. So, and then the other thing is, we all know that ladies have more lordosis. In other words, you have more curvature in your lower back. But the main key factor is the tailbone is much shorter as support, and you have much wider seat bones, hence the burst channel. Now, if you look at that opening versus that opening, oops, this way, okay, you can see how long the tailbone is. Okay? So when the gynecologist showed me all this and showed me what I just showed you, and remember he said A and B. He didn't tell me what is what. I always think A. And then, of course, slowly after you've been through the fourth or fifth different saddle company, you wondered, who has B pelvis? The ladies.
Yeah.
And as I said to you before, the majority of the riders are female riders. The majority of the guys make saddles, and the industry is very, very slow to change. When I started riding again, and I bought myself some riding pants, I looked forever to buy male riding pants in tack shops. The industry already, the clothing industry already know, there's the difference between the sex. There's the guys and there's the girls. Yeah. But the saddle makers haven't done it, right?
Yeah.
So my biggest advice is always try both identical same saddle. I don't care if it's a jumping, dressage, general purpose, eventing. Who cares? The same model. Tell them, can I try this in the male? Because I feel more like I'm a male shape. Whatever's in your mind, try them both. Without you knowing, your subconscious mind will pick A saddle or B saddle. Never call it male or female. Call it A or B. Why would you pick A? Oh, my leg hangs down. I don't rub my crotch or my underwear. Oh, I don't fall back. I keep my leg underneath and my hip doesn't hurt. My toes don't turn out. See, if your body tells you that, you don't care if the saddle has the label A or B. You pick it because you have a tool. Yeah. Saddle is nothing else than a tool to allow to get the harmony between two riders. So let's go to your questions first before I chew up the whole 30 minutes.
Oh no,
like you ask that.
You're listing all this stuff and I'm realizing I'm like, I think I know exactly what my problem is as a rider right now. All these things I've been struggling with for the last few years. I'm like, I think I know the answer now. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, we all have questions when it comes to saddle fitting, and I guess some of the most common ones, basically, so how would you properly size a saddle to your horse? Like, what are the key points you would look for?
Yeah, I would love to make it very, very easy. And I always follow the KISS sample because it can be very complicated. And when you, as a horse owner, have to learn 86 points, you give up. So if you start with the most common ones are the length of the saddle. Before you even go into what width, go the length of the saddle, because there's a length of the rider, the length of the saddle on top. Okay, there's two different lengths for the rider on top, same saddle. So let me show you. Here we go. The length of the rider feels is the pommel and the cantle. But you notice how this, where my pinky is, how this corner is forward?
Yeah.
So if I put the saddle nail here, it measures 18. If I measure it here, 17 and a half. Here, 17. Has that changed for you? No. Right? Because that's the same.
Yeah.
The length of how far this goes forward, okay, we know it as seat size, which never, ever exists in the Western riding. Army saddles and Western saddle measure swell to pommel forever, since thousands of years. But what got lost in translation when it didn't go anymore from saddle maker to rider, what do we have in the middle now? We have a wholesaler, a retailer, and a salesperson. So I think it's kind of like Chinese post, or in German we say Stille Post, when you whisper a word into a person and you go down the road, and by the end, the last person says something completely different, right? So this, what we know as seat size, 17.5, actually relates how long the saddle is on the bottom. Because if I say this is, let's say 15-inch from here to here, I can make that seat size 18-inch. Pommel to cantle on a Western saddle. Doesn't matter if it's an expensive or cheap one, you always measure from cantle to swell. So on an English saddle, you could have a saddle see how this is here, but this is not so cut out so far.
Yeah.
It doesn't go far. And you notice how this curls back. So this here, it's more like saddles were made for thousands of years. So the saddle doesn't hurt the horse for a long time or doesn't cripple the horse. Because every saddle, I have an expensive Western saddle and I have an inexpensive saddle. They all curl away from the shoulder. Because the scapular, okay, of the shoulder moves. And if I'm looking at my horse here, okay, you see how far down this is? Okay, we always look at the wither clearance. But this corner down here, wouldn't that make sense? Or maybe our grandfathers and their grandfathers and so on and forth knew. So here's the shoulder blade of the horse. Here's where the upper arm touch. This is what you can kind of feel. Okay, this, see the deformity on the bone. Okay, so that happens if you have a saddle tree. What is made the opposite. See how they push forward now instead of curl back? No army saddle, no Western saddle, no packing saddle ever have them go forward. Why do English saddle makers make it like this?
Yeah.
And hit exactly that corner and create that bone deformity.
Yeah.
Right? So when you, as a horse lover, a person who trains horses non-violent, the most kind way, that's the last you want to put this equipment on, what pokes on them. It's kind of like you have a little metal piece and you tap it on your ankle on the outside of the foot. That little bone what sticks out, your ankle would swell up like crazy. So you would say, I'm not going to do that again because I can't get my boots on. But what if somebody has a bridle on you and somebody forces you and you can't make the choice and keep banging that heel, right? So if you would be the horse, you have this incredible gift from nature, which is find a way to hide pain. Because a flight animal has to do that, otherwise I get picked first, who I get eaten. So the second the horse trots, the very second the horse trots, they get this endorphin rush to numbing the pain. So if you would get that, and I keep hitting you with a metal piece on your ankle, it might not hurt, but your reaction, the physiology of your body would make that swell. So now back to the KISS sample, back to what's the easiest way to know, to your question, how to fit a saddle. You know how they've done this for thousands of years? They looked at the end of the mane. 95% of all horses, where's my horse? Wherever this mane ends, okay? So wherever the mane ends, you go down 8 inches. You will find this edge. So I have an old cavalry book, a handbook, a soldier's book from Germany, written in 1932. And the instruction for them was very easy. It says, lick your thumb, with your finger, find the end of the mane, go 8 inches down, and then with that wet thumb, you go 8 inches straight up to the withers. So they kick the hair up, the thumb was wet for a minute. Then they say, go to the rear, find the rein line. What's the rein line. So a rein line, everybody sees them, but you might call them different. Let me show you a picture. Let me see if I find it. The rein line is a line, what you see when the horse is sweat or gets reined on it, because the horsehair comes up and
Yeah.
meets here, and this goes this way. So that is the rein line. So they went to the end of the mane, made a line, to the rein line, made a line. And what I drew here on this picture is the length. And what the soldier then did, they folded their blanket they used for cover up or as a tent, whatever. It's a wool blanket, and they folded between these two lines. And then the saddle sits on top, and then the remaining were hanging in the air. In Western riding, many people say, how come so many Western horses are not nearly as sore as so many English? Because the bar is much wider. Okay, they always have that wide channel.
Yeah.
They never sit on the spinal nerves. They always have this curled back. Yeah, but they're longer. Yeah, they're longer. But this here, from that middle part, this means to sit in the air. Same in the back. Okay? That part here, from here to there, that means to sit in the air. We call that flare. Have you ever heard that term, flare?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where I hang the gun, the rope, the water bottle, whatever. So that's why army saddles have had all that stuff on it. So with English saddles, because the bars are much narrow, we lose weight-bearing surface. And because we have some companies who go against the horse's anatomy, like that, we have shoulder issue. And then we have some saddles what went away and have this instead of 4 inches or 10 centimeter down to 3.5, 4 centimeters. So what's the best way to fit it? Figure out the lines. That line, whatever it is, 16 inches, 17 inches, 13 inches, it varies, right? Type of horses. Then you always be safe. If you have a saddle, you pick it up, and then you can put a fist in between. Okay? So that's my number one check. Length. Number two, it is the horse's spinal width. But my horse is a very cute horse. He's very skinny and he's a thoroughbred and I just got him off a track. He hasn't a wide spine. You know how much easier it is to put an extra pair of socks on if his shoe is way too big?
Yeah.
So if you put a saddle pad on an English saddle, you don't need saddle pads because the panels, this is a stuffed item here, right? That means to take the cushioning. England and Germany still have areas where they don't even use saddle pads because they like to sit close to the horse. Like the Canadian hockey players, they like to skate barefoot. They want to feel the ice. So why do we use socks? To get the sweaty foot, absorb the sweat, and my shoes don't stink. So I can wash my socks. Same with English saddle pads. If you have some nice conformed saddle pad, easier to wash that than to constantly wash your saddle. But if I have a horse where it's very skinny in the spine and my saddle has this wide channel, so I can make a thicker saddle pad or a correctional pad. But can you imagine you have a pair of shoes on and you're barefoot inside and your pinky sits on top, your middle fingers on top, toes on top, and you have to walk like this. You get blood blisters between the toes.
Yeah.
So nobody says to you, hey, put another sock on it. You says, are you nuts? It's even worse because then they all stagger on top. So how is that going to make sense?
Exactly.
So these are the two main important parts. So let's talk about what happens if you don't follow them. Okay? So do you know how much pressure you use to squish a lemon, you lose a lot of
Mm-hmm.
pressure to get the juice out,
Yeah.
right? Much less, you still need pressure, but much less pressure to squish a grape. So body workers, even veterinarians use terms like lemon pressure, grape pressure. So people relate, how much pressure is that? When is the pressure on the horse's back too much?
Mm-hmm.
So here's something what I will never, ever, ever forget. They said there are certain areas on the horse what makes the horse react very, very violent with less than egg yolk pressure. And I go, what is egg yolk pressure? I just learned lemon pressure and grape. Now you talk about egg yolk pressure, right? So egg yolk pressure is how much pressure you need in order to break the egg yolk on a sunny side egg.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot.
No.
So what if I would tell you there are certain areas where your saddle could hit and the horse will be fighting you for the first 15 to 20 minutes, such as doesn't go forward, heavy on the hand, stumble, doesn't take the lead, refuse. Oh, my horse, you know, that type of breed always takes 20 minutes warm up. In the wild, the horse doesn't say, excuse me, cougar, I have to stretch, I have to warm up, let's go. Right?
Yeah.
They can go from 1 minute to the next. The best advice I ever got from a veterinarian is a professor at the University of Minnesota. Minnesota. Dr. Tracy Turner, he said, the best way to see if the saddle hits one of those areas, the horse gives you tongue issues, tail issues, stumbling. The horse goes pace now. Unless you are a gaited rider, you're not necessarily like to have a 4-beat casual pace. You don't have to do more than just walk. Because in the walk, the horse doesn't have endorphins. And in the walk, you can see the pain, what is now identified by many, many veterinarians. There's an ethogram, the facial expression, or the pain scale. So every rider could see, oh, if there's 3 wrinkles on the nose, means this. If the eye does this, it means this. If the ear is this. So they have, and it's not just one opinion, it's by multiple universities worldwide who have come up with this. So if you put a saddle on, and again, A and B, you don't care which one you ride. Both of them are super comfortable to you. And in one, you don't even have it on the horse's back. They already turn to you as if they want to bite you. How does he know? How does he know what you just bringing on is not the right thing?
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? Ooh, you think now I'm really losing it. Every horse owner who's been in this world knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They have intuitions we don't have. We are not flight animals. So then you put the other saddle on and he's just standing there. Or when you ride, he's like leaning in my right leg or pulling on, and he's not lifting his base of the withers. He says, oh my God, he weighs like 2 tons. So the horse will never make his decision on, oh, I like this favorite saddle. Oh, I like that color.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a deal on this saddle. The horse will say, you hitting me in an area, what I'm going to react with egg yolk pressure. If I hit here, I don't need more than grape pressure. I feel it here.
Yeah.
So next time we see each other, if you like, I would love to show you, based on little horses, where these 14 points are and what happens and what you can look further than just the length in this file. Does that help? Did that give you some?
No, definitely. It's definitely gives you an idea that it's more than just making sure, you know, you got 2 fingers or 3 fingers and it's coming from here to here. And there's just so much more to it than I think anyone really realizes until you start diving into it. And I think that's where we need to start educating people on more. Because
right.
like I said, so many of us are growing up with a one size fits all kind of mentality.
Yeah. And as I explained that with the pelvises, you know, you just have feedback or fight back from the industry because they want you to buy saddles until you find something you're not hurting in as a rider.
Yeah.
Right. And for the horse, remember, they are masters of hiding pain. So if you start as a rider to learn to see the pains before I see the deformity or further damage as the white hairs, dry spots, and all that other stuff we all know, maybe too late, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like the KISS sample. I mean, everybody can find the end of the mane and go 8 inches down, up and down.
Yeah.
Everybody can find the rain line, and everybody can figure out where on the hand is 10 centimeter. For me, it's here. I mean, that is a very simple test. And next week or whenever we talk, we should take it further to help people where those reflex points are, what creates tongue issues, movement issues, and even psychological
Mm-hmm.
issues. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for meeting with us.
Hey, I love your whole Instagram. I looked at you and I says, I think we have a connection
Yeah.
here.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. And it was very insightful to meet with you today. So I would definitely love to chat again.
Yeah, Mia will reach out to you. Can't wait to talk
Perfect.
to you again.
Sounds
Bye-bye.
good. Thank you so much.